Dr. Sultan, wow, that was a call to action if ever I've heard one. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for kicking off the 2023 Global Energy Forum in such fine style. In just a few minutes, we're going to have a very special event to follow. Another distinguished guest and friend, His Excellency Suhail Al Mazrouei, the Minister of Energy and Infrastructure of the United Arab Emirates, will be joined by His Excellency Saad Sherida Al Kaabi, the Minister of Energy of the State of Qatar, as well as the President and CEO of QatarEnergy. Of all the things we've done over the last 7 years at the Atlantic Council, we haven't had a conversation with the two of these gentlemen on the same stage at the same time, so we're really looking forward to that. And the other thing I'm really proud of is how quickly the team can actually set things up. So, ministers, please come join us. I'm not sure.
You want to sit in the middle?
I think it's better you sit in the middle, and I'll sit here. It's an honor to be with the two of you today, and thank you for helping us kick this off. Concerns around energy security and improving energy access to the developing world have been at the top of the agenda this year, with natural gas being a major area of attention given Europe's efforts to rapidly diversify its natural gas imports. So I actually have two questions. One of them is, we had quite an extraordinary, for the two of you to kick us off. One of them is that we had a quite extraordinary 2022 in the energy world, and a little bit of reflection on that, but what you expect for 2023. But then on world natural gas questions, prices spiked this year, but seem to be returning back to earth. And then within 2023, in your eyes, does it reflect an equilibrium of supply and demand balance for gas? Or do you foresee in 2023 further imbalances on the horizon in the short term, but through this year? So a look at the year ahead, a reflection on the year past with a specific look at what you expect for natural gas.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for hosting me, and thank my very good friend, His Excellency Suhail, for inviting me to this event. It's a pleasure to be back in the UAE with such a distinguished audience. I think if you look at the gas supply demand and what happened last year, it started actually before the Ukraine, where the lack of investment in the oil and gas sector caused really a shortage in gas. And ahead of the Ukraine, the oil and gas prices obviously were clearly going higher due to lack of supply. And that lack of investment was driven by many factors, including the bigger push for the green without having a real plan for how the transition is going to happen. So there was a scarcity of investment over about 5-6 years. And then when the Ukraine situation happened, a big volume was taken out of the market, and obviously that would take it even further up. I think, 22, the spike is very obvious why, but 23, I think it has come down as everybody has witnessed. But, the mild winter, I think, in Europe is the biggest cause. And there is storage, ample storage, but they haven't had, luckily, they haven't had a very high demand for gas due to the warmer weather. The issue is what's going to happen when they want to replenish their storages in this coming year and the next year. There isn't much gas coming into the market until 25, 26, 27. So I think it's going to be a volatile situation for some time to come.
And prices will be volatile with it. It'll be going up and down.
Yeah,
with
prices are
it.
a factor of supply demand. I think some people think that we are very happy for high oil prices and so on. The biggest worry that we would have, I think, as oil and gas producers, is demand destruction. And you can see that there is demand destruction with whether it's gas or oil. And unfortunately, I think the wonderful speech that we heard from His Excellency Sultan, talks about what we're going to do going forward, and we're all for what he mentioned. But you can't have coal at record highs and say that we are going to achieve our targets. 30% of the power in the world uses coal, and all the countries that were calling for coal to be stopped are using it at record levels today. So I think we need to take a very serious action, and I think coal is the biggest emitter by far. And I don't see I see a lot of attack on oil and gas companies and demonizing oil and gas companies. I don't see the same attack on the biggest polluter on the planet.
I'm really looking forward to coming back to you about the demonization question. Mr. Minister, you have lived through so much change and so much history since you took over as the minister. Everything from OPEC Plus to what we experienced last year, rolling off the war in Ukraine. How do you look at 2022, what you expect for 2023, and the same question, particularly with a particular focus on natural gas?
Well, first of all, it's glad to see this crowd. I think probably this is the biggest Atlantic Council energy that we have ever since we started, and I'm grateful for His Excellency and for all of your excellencies for coming. Actually, I would build on what His Excellency Saad mentioned. We've been talking about the lack of investments and the lack of interest from the financial institutions to finance fossil or oil and gas projects. And part of that is also the lack of understanding what is the future for many countries when it comes to energy strategy, what contributions or what percentages they would have of gas, or even the pace of reducing their coal. It's not clear. I mean, there are plans, but those plans are not concrete, and that unclear long-term strategy by many countries put them in a situation where it's very difficult for them to commit for a long-term gas contracts, which is then return made the companies or those who are developing the gas at a very difficult position with their financiers, because they would like to see a long-term contracts, and those long-term contracts are not there. Everyone wants to buy, but they want to buy in a 2 years or 3 years span. And that is not enough for someone to develop gas. Gas is available, and there are huge discoveries in the recent history. But the development pace is not there, and the investment is not there. So that is one of the problems, or one of the issues that causing the problem today. Of course, Russia is a major producer of gas and LNG. And when you shift from one location to another, trying to adjust, that takes time. And that's what happened in 2022, where some of that gas have been relocated to another market, and other gas from other market is homing to Europe, especially from the US. But is that sustainable in the longer run? I think you would need more collaboration between the European nations on agreeing on the optimization of the FSRUs that are also limited, and also agree on some pipelines. I think one of the things that contributes to energy security is pipeline gas. And together with Qatar and with Oman, we have established the first regional Middle East pipeline that secured and made energy security affordable and available for the three countries. And I think in the future, if you ask me about the future, I think we need to do more of these projects. There are countries which requires gas, and we cannot do everything as LNG. I think State of Qatar and His Excellency personally is involved in some of the largest expansions of LNG. Dr. Sultan as well and ADNOC, they are also increasing their capacity of exporting. But even with that, with those investments, it's not enough. Gas has to be available and has to be affordable to secure and to become a base load that helps the renewable energy and help cleaning up the environment and reaching the COP goals. We are committed. We will do the investments, but I think the whole world need to think about the resources and need to think about how we enable the companies and the IOCs and the NOCs to produce more gas to make it available and affordable.
Thank you for that answer. Minister Al Kaabi, I want to come back to your comment about demonization. This is a country that's one of the, I guess, OPEC's third largest producer of energy. It's also a country that's been a pioneer. Dr. Sultan talked about Masdar in the renewable space at the same time. In the COP process in the past, the climate community and the fossil fuel providers were rarely in the same room. Are you seeing a change? Climate community seems to be more open now to particularly natural gas as a bridging fuel, more open to nuclear power as well, other solutions in decarbonizing carbon. And the fossil fuel community is investing billions in new technologies, in renewables, et cetera. Dr. Sultan was talking about a paradigm shift. Is that too utopian to think that that's where we're going? Talk a little bit about how you think these two communities can come together and actually accelerate the reduction of emissions, not slow it down.
If I can just be a little bit blunt maybe about this, is the community that was driving the green was living in a dream that they realized they can't achieve, okay? And basically, if you want to achieve what we all want to achieve, I think we're the hottest place in the world probably. So climate change affects us more than most. For us, it's very important that we head in that direction. It's very important that we achieve these goals, but we need to be realistic about what we can and cannot achieve. And we can't be driven by just political agendas of people wanting to be elected. Okay? It should be based on reality, based on what can be achieved. I'm an engineer. You tell me I want to achieve an objective, I'll tell you, okay, can I do it? Put the plan, what's the budget, and we achieve it at this timeline. But just to talk about achieving net zero, and the majority of the countries that you talk to, they talk about net zero, and you say, how are you going to achieve it? They say, we achieve 60–70% of it by 2040 by doing this, this, and that. And the rest is technology improvement. So that, I'm not a native English speaker, but that doesn't mean we will achieve net zero. It means we'll strive to, we'll try, we'll see what we can do to achieve it, okay? So to me, I think the realization of the need for gas, because wind doesn't blow all the time, solar is not available all day, and technology improvements in storage and so on is going to improve, and there are a lot of things that will improve and hopefully help us in that sphere. But I think there are two sources that will be needed for the very long time for people that don't have hydro and other renewable energies. You need nuclear for those that can afford it. and are capable of building it and have the technology, and you need gas. And these two will have to be the base load for countries for a very long time. And I don't agree that gas is a transition fuel. I think it's a destination fuel until we have a realistic solution that can do away with gas. It's a destination fuel that you will need for a very long time. And when we say we need more investments in gas, and as His Excellency mentioned, they're expanding in LNG. We're building 65 million tons. We're producing 77 million tons today. We're building 65 million tons of LNG that has already been FID'd. Okay? Now, so almost double. 48 million tons coming from Qatar, and our investment in the US is another 16 to 18 million tons. So we're bringing really a lot of gas to the market, but it's not enough. And you can't achieve what we need as humanity and the number of people that are going to grow, as His Excellency Dr. Sultan mentioned. We need growth. 1 billion people today are deprived of basic electricity that we all enjoy. So we need to be fair. And I think one point I'd like to just add to that on the investment side. It's very, very, very unfair of some in the West to say that African countries should not invest in oil and gas, and they should remain green or whatever you want to call it, while this is a God-given wealth that they can create for their national growth and for their prosperity, and it is oil and gas that is needed for the world. And we should not forget the oil and the petrochemicals and what you need there. People love kayaks. They love the coolers that they take for picnics. There is no renewable that can manufacture that. It's oil-based solutions that get you there. Okay, so it's ethane crackers and plastics and so on that are needed. I know we need to do a lot of work there, but let's not forget the reality of what we need. A lot of stuff that you have around you here, and the decoration and the flooring and all that, is oil and gas. Yeah, what we're wearing. Okay, so let's be realistic while achieving the goals that we want.
Minister Suhail, I'd love you to build upon what you've just heard from your colleague with the question of the climate community perhaps dreamt things, dreams that were inachievable, but also from the fossil fuel provider's standpoint, is enough being done?
No, I don't think we're doing enough, but there is a wave of new thinking. And I'm glad I see it more in the IOCs, in the NOCs. Typically, the technology and all of that comes from you, Discalci, and the others who are here. But I am really glad to see companies now thinking of reducing their carbon intensity, to see state-owned companies seeking the highest technologies to reduce methane emissions. And that is kind of a change in the industry that we haven't seen. We need to remember that the cleanest hydrocarbon is probably produced here in the Gulf. If we compare the carbon intensity of what we produce as a barrel here, and you compare it with barrels elsewhere, probably we have the cleanest barrels or the greenest barrels you can find. And that comes at an investment. It doesn't come free. I mean, us and Qatar and same with gas. You could produce gas, but you could produce gas also with the intention in mind to reduce the carbon intensity. And that's, I'm sure, what QP is doing, and Qatar Gas, and what ADNOC is doing. The fact that we here in the Abu Dhabi walk the talk and say that we will use the only electricity we will use in the field to produce oil is going to come from renewable or clean sources, that's by itself, it's a commitment. It doesn't come free. It comes, I'm sure, at a cost. But that's the cost that we are willing to do our part. And I'm sure we will see more of these actions. So we will do our part. But realistically, you need a base load. Until we reach a price for the base load to complement the 100% renewable energy, whether it's a battery or other technologies, we will need a base load contributor. And I agree with His Excellency Saad, for a very long time, gas will be there. Percentage-wise, it may reduce, and it will reduce. But in absolute numbers, it will increase, and it will increase significantly. What is the worry? The worry, with that increase in demand, we will not have enough supply. And gas and oil are a finite resources. They are not going to stay there forever. We have seen countries going steeply in decline. Only, talking about oil, and gas is like oil, only within the 23 countries with OPEC Plus. Since 2000, the reduction in the ability to produce is more than 3.7 million barrels. What does that tell you? That tells you that we are in a decline. In many countries, they are in the decline mode. Same with gas, I am sure. So not every country have the resources that Qatar has, or UAE has, or Saudi Arabia, or other countries. Many countries have started earlier, and they are in the decline mode. Same with the US. How many years? And are we going to have enough batteries or technologies to assume that we will have it and it's going to be uniform everywhere? I think that's a big assumption. But at the same time, we need to do what Sultan have said, and we are committed to do it as a country. We can afford to do it, and many countries will do. But can we enable and be a platform for inclusiveness, so everyone is enabled to do it? How many companies like Masdar we need, and how many alliances like the one with the US we need with the 100 gigawatt? India will need to install probably 500 gigawatt in the next 20 to 30 years, and more in China and many other countries. That's, I think, where we are. More renewable energies will be installed, but we need a base load. And for a base load, we need more investments in the gas.
Thank you for that, Minister Suhail. So, Minister Al Kaabi, I racked my brain last night about how to think about a question that linked the global energy market to the World Cup, and I couldn't come up with it. Lionel Messi just couldn't get into any of my questions. But congratulations anyway on the World Cup. Give us your view of what you foresee in the global gas market that might be preventing the market from reaching equilibrium. Is it the resources? Is it the investment? So much is being demanded of gas right now. So much is being demanded of LNG. If you had told me, 2 years ago that suddenly Germany would have, within 6 months, 3 new import terminals brought into the market by the Vice Chancellor of Germany, who is the leader of the Green Party, it would have sounded preposterous. So how do you see the future of equilibrium in the market, and what are the problems in getting there?
Yeah, on the German side, we were negotiating with the Germans for about 10 years. And suddenly they came to us and said, we want to build terminals. So, the world changes. I think the equilibrium will be achieved by hopefully some kind of a mediation or truce or some kind of a political solution where Russia and Europe get things, I think, sorted out, if you will, politically, hopefully, and the sooner the better. I don't think that this war and this situation will not last forever. I understand that the Europeans today are saying there's no way we're going back to Russian gas. We're all blessed to have, to be able to forget and to forgive. And I think things get mended with time, and I don't think some of the countries that were depending 100% or a very large percentage on Russia will not go back to 100% or 80% or maybe 50%. They will diversify and they'll learn from that situation and probably have a much bigger diversity. But the Russian gas is going to come back, in my view, to Europe. Is it next year? Is it in 5 years? I don't know. But once the situation is sorted out, and that I think will be a big relief to the whole gas sector and to the whole market in Europe, and will stabilize prices. And again, as I mentioned, high prices are not good for us. I mean, reasonable prices that keep us as investors, wanting to invest and happy, if you will, and consumers that remain. There are many factories that completely went out of business, and you want a happy buyer that can actually continuously pay. So you want stability of supply and stability of demand to do that. So I think the situation, for it to get to equilibrium or equalize, I think the Russian situation getting sorted out is the only solution. The solution of getting more gas is coming. The only two projects that are coming on a big scale is our project from the US is going to bring about 80 million tons starting in end of 24 and then really peaking at 25. And then QatarEnergy's investments in our expansions in Qatar, 48 million tons are going to come. The rest are smaller projects that will come a little bit later. But other than that, that's the volume that's coming. And if governments and legislators do not promote additional gas investments, as His Excellency Suhail said, if I'm being very selfish, that's good for us. Mm-hmm. But that's not good for the development.
So, Minister Suhail, is part of the problem here what Minister Al Kaabi talked about previously, which is particularly the climate community would like to see gas as a transition fuel. You probably quite accurately said it's more of a destination fuel. When I talk to U.S. manufacturers, producers of LNG, they need longer-term contracts. You talked about this. But the Europeans are saying, look, because this is a transition fuel, we're not going to give you a contract beyond 2030. But without the long-term contract, they can't afford to do what they're doing. Is there a fix to this? Are we moving to more long-term contracts? Or do you think this is just the way it's going to unfold?
I think we need to remember, the spot LNG prices was depressed for a very long time before the hike. And it was sold at a price that is less than a fair price for those who have developed it. I think it was $5 to $6, and it has to be probably north of $8 or $9 just to make sense for the investment. And that was depressing for those who have resources to develop it. Now we are at a very high price environment for the spot. So one of the problems is the differential in the price between the term contract and the spot market. And the second problem is the lack of having clarity on where are they going. Some believes that the technology or the battery technologies will allow us to install enough renewable energy and have the ability to store them. They're not thinking of the land cost, land availability. They're not thinking that people will need land to live in. So all of these things, you don't see someone who's planning it at a very long term and understanding it. One of the issue, the government span is 4 to 8 years. So that's what's important. And that's a reality we're living. And that's the maximum planning they can do. And then someone is coming and changing their mind. There is also an issue on the current prices being discouraging or distorting demand. Mm-hmm. Because of the higher gas prices. People are saying, well, if we burn anything, it's cheaper than gas. So we should not buy gas. And that is also short term and it's not going to stay. I think on average, the price will stabilize to something that is reasonable for the buyer and the seller. We have seen that more in the oil market, and that I think ultimately is going to happen. But during the lack of supply, it's a market.
Yep.
It's a supply and demand. And the market is hot today because the lack of supply. And if we are not building more pipeline gas, interlinking countries, and also interlinking countries in terms of the power grid. I mean, here in the Gulf, we are integrated. We are integrated in terms of gas, and we are integrated in terms of power. And that gives us a security of supply. Europe is also integrated in terms of power. I think the issue is the integration in terms of gas. If you have a pipeline and someone is bringing that gas, but it cannot be only LNG. LNG is not going to solve it. So all of that needs to be discussed not on a country base. I think it needs to be discussed in more of a forum. And that's what we are trying to do in the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. And among all of us, we're discussing and we're trying to bring ideas. And I think a takeaway from this panel is we need to think of how we bring more projects and promote more projects together with some capable partners in the IOCs. And I think we have to do it.
So we've reached the end of this session. We've run out of time, but 30 seconds for each of you with the following question, maybe 45 seconds. Looking to 2023, what do you worry about most? What gives you the most hope?
What worries me the most is, I think, in a nutshell, governments that are thinking of how to get re-elected more than their long-term interest of their nation.
And hope?
I hope that they realize that they need to promote investment in gas, and they need to ensure that they have, their banks and their institutions support that, because that's how we're going to achieve our ambitions on the environment, and not by just saying that we're going to be building all these renewables that they can't achieve. So,
Minister Suhail.
Well, what worries me the most is another year of fluctuation, huge fluctuation in the prices that is going to distort demand and distort the thinking that gas is needed, and gas needs to be a base load for a reasonable number of years. And I hope that this conflict, this war in Ukraine end sooner than later, for humanitarian and for the stability also of a very important continent, which is Europe, for all of us. What is happening is affecting everyone.
That's a powerful close. So we started with an incredible opening speech by Dr. Sultan. What a wonderful conversation with the two of you. I'm going to thank you, Minister Suhail, not just for your time today, but for the UAE's hospitality. Minister Al Kaabi, thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you back for many more global energy forums. We appreciate it. We're going to leave the stage, and then there'll be an announcement for the Right Honorable Grant Shapps, the United Kingdom Secretary of State for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy. You'll hear the voice that will then bring the stage, and that will end our first block of programming this morning. Please join me in thanking the two ministers for such a wonderful discussion.